Hello and welcome back to the Grapple Theory podcast. Thank you so much for joining us once again. Now it's the start of October, and to kick off this month and throughout this month actually, we're going to be celebrating the best of Black British wrestlers, and that is because it is Black History Month here in the UK. So we're going to be talking throughout the entire month to a host of Black British wrestlers about their experiences on the scene, about representation in wrestling, also about their careers and how they're getting on personally, and loads more besides. But really with a focus on the aspect of representation in British wrestling, which is something which is so hugely important. So we'll be focusing on that all of this month. We've got some incredible guests lined up, and we start with one of them, one of the best wrestlers on the British team today. He's taking a little break at the moment. We're going to be talking to him about that as well. But please welcome to the show this week, Warren Banks. Warren, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's a pleasure to have you here. Now, let's start by talking about, your year. We'll talk about how you got on in the last sort of 12 months or so since wrestling returned in a little bit. But first of all, I know you're taking a little break because of injury at the minute. How is everything going in that regard? How's your injury holding up?
It's all going really well. Like, it's continuing to wrestle. I know everyone tries to be a hero, but it was the absolute wrong thing to do because I stopped, and within about 2 weeks, like, it had improved massively. It's a rotator cuff injury, so of course, as you know, it's whatever affects you lifting your arm up in front of you. I can now do this with it, and that's like pain-free. So just taking time off has helped a lot.
No, yeah.
I've got physio in a few weeks, and I should be clear to actually start kind of putting weight on it by November. But I've been told to kind of stick with the general exercises for now, otherwise there'll be an imbalance if I do. So slowly but surely I'll get there though.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. And that's something that I think a few wrestlers we've spoken to have said as well. I mean, for you, how tough was it not only going through wrestling still with that injury, but then also, I guess, realizing that you had to take a break? How tough is it to sort of step away, like giving yourself that opportunity?
It was tough initially, like all things are. Like all things are tough when you first kind of... So a bit of background is I had a square job, a shoot job in insurance. I'd gone from full-time to part-time due to the success of wrestling and other things I was doing. Things had continued to go well, so I spoke to my manager and we agreed I'd take a sabbatical, which is a unpaid leave of absence for about 6 months to a year. So it was about, I think, 6 weeks before I was due to take the sabbatical that I got hurt. And I was like, man, in all my calculations and planning, wrestling did make up a fair bit of my income. So the financial side of it was a bit heartbreaking, but thankfully an opportunity came that I've been able to take advantage of, which has helped a lot. And then from like a performer standpoint, it hurt because the day I kind of was like, something's wrong, I need to call a doctor, was like, it was just after Super Strong Style 16, and it was the most inspired I'd felt about wrestling in a long time. But with hindsight and having stepped back and gained perspective, taking a break was 100% the right thing to do. And I think in myself as well, I was almost relieved that I was able to take a break. And in a weird way, it wasn't my choice, if that makes sense. It's a little bit easier when you don't have a say in the matter. You know? So it didn't feel like I was giving up or anything like that. It was just, I'm doing what I need to do in order to heal, which is how it is.
Yeah, and that's important as well. Like, you know, other wrestlers have said as well, you know, sometimes it's mentally, sometimes it's physically, but I think it's important to sort of know that boundary and know when something has got to, like, you know, even if it's a break for a little while, just sort of be stopped for a little bit so you can like readjust and recover.
No, 100%. 100%. I think a lot of it's the fear of missing out. It has its hooks in all of us in a variety of things, whether it be video games or TV shows or hanging out with your mates, anything like that. You don't want to miss out. But I think the thing to kind of accept is like, no one's that important. We're not running the country. Do you know what I mean? Like, we can take a step back and wrestling will still be here when we get back.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's always good to look after yourself.
Absolutely.
Not just for you, but the people around you as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, talk to me then about sort of the year coming back from the pandemic, wrestling coming back, before you sort of took this break, because it seemed like, you know, despite the injury and everything, like, you know, in the ring you were having a fantastic year. You're getting, like you said, that push at Progress, Wrestle Island as well, and other places. Like it seemed like, injury aside, it has been a really good year for you in the ring.
Yeah, and I think that's the reason why. Weirdly, I wasn't too upset or too mad about it. Like, all I could think about was like, I've had it really good So it's hard to be mad when you've had it really
Mm.
good, you know? If it was a case of, there's still things I want to do, I was just on the cusp of this, that, and the other, it would sting a bit. But I think like it's been such a great time
Mm.
that all I can do is look at it and go, I'm just glad I was able to do it. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a
Yeah.
feeling of gratitude. The gratitude overwhelms everything else.
Mm.
Like I got to wrestle John Morrison. I used to play as him in video games. Do you know, like how cool is that? You know, so that's cool. After that match, I was like, if I retire tomorrow, man, I'm happy. Like,
Yeah.
you know, he gave me feedback, and it's sort of like he wrestled John Cena, and he said that I was good. So I got nothing else to worry about. Like, you know.
I was going to say, is that like a sort of like a surreal experience, almost like a pinch yourself
Yeah.
moment where you like look across from him, he's staring at you in the ring, and you're like, what the fuck is happening here?
It was so. It's one of those ones where you can't allow yourself that because you fall out of the zone, so to speak. So I initially had it when I was facing John Gresham, and I was like, I've watched this guy on Ring of Honor. Like he's John Gresham, and he's making his entrance to the ring, and I'm supposed to be mad. But I take a moment and just got this massive smile on my face, like this is cool, man. Wrestling's awesome. And it was the same with John. Like he got there, and we were chatting about because of my injury and stuff. He was telling me about his experiences and things. And he was like munching on these chocolate digestives. He's like, "Do you want some?" I was like, "I'm cool, I'm okay." But yeah, it was just this moment, like just face to face with him in the ring, and I'm like, "This is actually happening.
Yeah.
It's sick." Like,
Yeah, you got to keep it, like you say, in character. But then, like, you're also like, John Morrison just offered me a chocolate digestive. Like that's just a random thing that like you never think is going to happen.
Oh, he's great. And I could talk about. He's just the nicest bloke as well. That's the thing. You'd think a guy like that would have, you know, be over superstars. He's just the nicest man. Just the nicest, friendliest man you'll meet. It's crazy.
Nice. That is really good to hear. It's nice, like when wrestlers say that they come across someone big that like they find inspiring, and like they're just a down to earth person, which is really nice.
I think with him, he doesn't need to do it in terms of we spoke at length, and it's sort of like he doesn't need the money. He does this because he loves entertaining people. And I think when it's sort of like you're led by your passion and your enthusiasm by it, you can't help but be in a good mood when you're at work, sort of thing. So yeah, no, he's a lovely bloke, man. Great guy.
Nice. And we talk about that. We talk about sort of like the push you're getting at Progress as well. I mean, we'll get onto the actual push itself in a minute, but like what we're talking about with the injury, when you're getting those moments and those matches, and things seem to be building for you. And I know you say sort of at a certain point it wasn't your choice to sort of stop wrestling for a bit, but does that make it that little bit harder to accept when you're on such a good run?
Yeah. So you've hit the nail on the head. It's harder to accept, and so when I got injured, I wasn't injured at Super Strong Style. I got injured like a good 3 or 4 weeks before that. I think all in all, I continued to wrestle for 2 months with I didn't know it was torn, but with the torn rotator cuff, and it was a case of you tell yourself one more and then I'm done, one more and then I'm done. This one's important. I'll get it out of the way and then I'll stop. And you just keep doing it. And as you say, it's hard to accept because things are going so well. You just kind of keep lying to yourself. And you're like, no, I'll be okay. I'll do these stretches I saw on YouTube and I'll be okay. And then stuff like that. And they did help alleviate the pain, but the ligaments and all the issues, they weren't reattaching. And every time they tried, they would just get torn again and torn again. And the crazy thing is when I stopped, like I can feel it reattaching, and it started at the top and it's going down. So every week or so, the pain travels a little bit further down. There's less pain, and I can feel it moving. And I'm like, oh, so all that's left to reattach now is like these tiny bits here. But yeah, going back to your initial question, sorry.
That's all right. I love a good tangent. I love that.
Yeah, it was tough. It was really hard to accept. And I think I was lying to myself. And I was like, I'm going to be a tough wrestler who just pushes through it and works through it. And I'm like, I can't. I was struggling to get dressed. I can now put a backpack on, but I couldn't put like a bag over my shoulders, anything like that. Even in the gym, I was like, I'll just work legs. I can't. The one time I go to the gym, because I hate it, I can't even get my arm far enough back to hold the bar to squat. You know? I can do it now, but initially I just couldn't. So it was weirdly debilitating and.
But it's the sort of thing. It's the sort of thing I imagine. You say debilitating. It's the sort of thing I imagine that you don't really notice until you can do it.
100%. Like even things like propping yourself up in bed involves you using this. I didn't realize how much we do day to day involving your rotator cuff until you can't use it anymore. The push was crazy. The stuff that was happening and was going to happen was going to be so much fun. But wrestling will still be there.
Yeah. So, and like with those sort of pushes again, I imagine that just makes you that bit hungrier for coming back to wanting to prove yourself again and get to that level again.
I feel like I'm getting to that phase because initially, if I'm being 210% honest, I just didn't want anything to do with wrestling. When I got hurt, I was like, if I'm going to be gone, I want to be gone
Mm.
for a while. Like, I'm still not really able to watch it at the moment. Just didn't think about it, all of this stuff. But like, I've been backstage at a few shows the last few weeks, and I can feel like the love for it is coming back a bit, slowly but surely.
Nice, nice. That's great to hear. That's
Yeah,
always good to hear. Brilliant.
yeah.
No, I love it. And with let's start with Progress. We'll get on to Wrestle Island as well in a little bit. But with Progress coming back from that pandemic,
Mm.
getting that push, especially with Lee and Martin coming in as the new owners as well. Like, did you chat to them at all in terms of like what they hoped for you, or what their plans were for you? And I mean, if so, how nice is it to sort of get that gratification that sort of such like Progress still, I guess, what considered one of the biggest companies, indie companies in the UK, sort of want you to be the one that they're sort of pushing and featuring constantly on their shows.
It was kind of it. So the truth, like to peel back the curtain a little bit, I'm
Mm.
sure I'm not the person who masterminded it. I'm not going to say their name, but I was like an experiment
Mm.
at Progress. So during the Peckham era, as we call it, the no fan shows, there was a lot of like experimentation and people playing roles or trying things out that they hadn't had the chance to do.
Mm.
So I was a heel. I was a bad guy, like, and a kind of out and out bad guy for like the first time, really anywhere prominent.
Mm.
So that was the experiment. Where they positioned me again on the card and the shows was the experiment. So by the time Liam Martin came in, the experiment was already in full flow of like, okay, he's one of the top heels that we have.
Mm.
Then the live show happened, the first live show back, and I got like cheered, and I was like, I don't think the experiment worked, fellas. This ain't working. Like,
That's got to be weird because it's tough to gauge,
yeah,
right, with no fans, like if it's actually working
exactly.
or not.
'Cause I was like, I speared like Gene Money in the back. I like strangled all of Northwest Strong. I beat him up. I jumped Chris Richard. I'm evil. And then I get out and they're like, yeah. I'm like, oh, well, I'm not evil enough, clearly. I need to stab someone. I don't know what I got to do. Like, so it wasn't, so Martin and Lee, they're based up in the Liverpudlian area,
Mm.
Merseyside. And they saw me a few times at Wrestle Island. But it wasn't until I believe the match with Gresham, they'd actually seen me kind of do that kind of longer, more intense main event style. Because normally Wrestle Island's a family show. We kind of
Mm.
scale back the dangerous moves that we do, and it's more interactive. The main event against Gresham was more like much more serious and aggressive,
Mm.
and they'd never seen me do that before. And I think it was after that where Martin said like, "I didn't." He goes, "This may sound the most backhanded compliment ever. I didn't know you were that good." So like, and then he shook my hand, and I was like, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, but yeah, after that, they seemed kind of, they were like, yeah, this guy can be featured prominently
Mm.
and consistently, and we would like that if that happened. So I guess I won their trust,
Mm.
knowing that I could hang with those sorts of people and get that sort of reaction and stuff. So
Brilliant.
it felt, as you said, it was validation. I
Mm.
wasn't looking for it, but it was a very nice, good to know sort
Yeah.
of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And we speak about validation. Let's move on to Wrestle Island as well, because you mentioned it there.
Mm,
And somewhere that obviously, again, validation in terms of like them putting the top belt on you this year as well, coming back, wanting to feature you as like, you're the person to take the company forward. But also somewhere, that you've been a while and it seems like you have like a really good rapport with them and the fans and they love you. And
yeah.
it seems like a place you're really at home.
I do really like Wrestle Island. Like it's one of those ones where it's where I used to live when we first started doing it. It's like a 3+ hour drive there, 3+ hour drive back. I'm in London now, so it's even further.
Mm.
But I will always. I was initially drafted because somebody pulled out on the day. So I was recommended by Hustle Malone to fill
Mm.
that spot. Um, and I never told him this. I told him it now. But like Wrestle Island, Peter Blacker, he was the first man to actually ever pay me for wrestling.
Really?
Legit the first man to ever give me any money whatsoever for wrestling.
Wow.
And I've been doing it, I think by that point, I've been kind of wrestling on shows somewhat regularly for just under a year at that
I
point.
was going to say, I thought you'd been wrestling for about a year before you started at Island. Like,
Around about that time, yeah, and it was mainly like kind of local, small, local shows, but like the training school that we were at,
mm.
and some other things as well. But he was the first guy to actually pay me, and I was like, wow. And so it's one of those ones where I think no matter where I go, if he calls, I'll come. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if I come back and I end up in flipping Japan, if he says, "Yo, we need you for this," I'm coming back. It's one of those ones.
First flight out.
You know what I mean? Yeah, because it's sort of I don't forget things that people do for me, and
Mm.
it's not just the payment; it's it's the way he spoke. It's like being treated nicely, because
Mm.
wrestling isn't always the nicest place. But we got there, we had our own change rooms. There was like food, there was drink. I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And like that's never dropped. He's always been like that good guy who looks out for the workers. So for that, it's very much, I will always kind of run through a wall to support the people who do things the right way. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? One of those ones. So Wrestle Island is a place I've got a strong connection with. So
That's
no matter where I
awesome to
go.
hear. That's all. Big up Wrestle Island. That's great. That's
Mhm,
fantastic. And
mhm.
that's crazy that like you hadn't been paid for like by
Yeah,
wrestling for a year until that
legit.
point. Again, like
Yeah,
I imagine that's also another like early career like sort of pinch yourself moment and be like, oh fuck, this is real now. I'm getting paid to do it.
yeah, that's it. I was like, man, I spent it all at McDonald's, but I was like, oh man, this is great. I'm a professional wrestler now. I'm getting actual money. Like this is amazing. So, yeah, no, ever since then, man. It's like because obviously as you go on and your career progresses, you gain experience, you gain a level of notoriety. You will kind of increase how much you charge.
Mm.
Like I've never had that conversation with him. It was just one point I opened the envelope and there was more money in there, and I was like, oh, I guess I got a raise,
Mm.
like and stuff like that. You know, like he does things the right way. He does
Yeah.
things the right way. Yeah.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And while we're handing out shout outs, it would be rude to have you on here and not talk about the 8-7 as well.
Hey, my
Because
boys.
we've had on Roy Johnson, we've had on
Yes,
Jade already. We haven't had Alexander Roth on yet. We need to do that in the future. But
I
you're the
hear it.
third member of the 8-7 that we've had on. Really representing here on the Gravel Theory podcast.
That's it. That's it.
Talk to me about this group. Talk to me about how it all came back. Because we spoke to Jade, and obviously she joined later, and she was
Yeah.
brilliant. She told us about how she was basically just like harassing you for months, being like, "I want to join. Let me join. Let me join."
We did it like she's told the story and it was okay, so it was a joke, and then she started filming these funny things where she kept stealing the armband. And we were in a group chat, and it was like, I don't think she's gonna stop, fellas. I think we should just like just do it, just do it, because it's just make it happen, lads. So there she is. But for myself, so the 8-7 were obviously it was initially a team of Kieran Corrupt,
Mm.
Alexander Roth, and Big Wave Roy Johnson.
Mm.
So they were doing bits and pieces around the country, sometimes as tags, sometimes as trios. They were mainstays in a charity promotion called Sacrifice Pro Wrestling that runs in the home counties. And I'd been the ultimate babyface there for like a long, long while.
Mm.
So we were like, I like factions. I'm a really big New Japan guy. I love the idea of there just being large crews of people. So I was like, I want in. And it made sense, like we were talking about, and it's like, I've been a good guy for so long, it's become stale.
Mm.
I would like to be a bad guy. We look cool as a unit as well.
Mm.
And around that time, Kieran was looking at taking a break, so it's like we do need to replace him with somebody. So I was like, this guy. So we did it. So we did an angle where it looked like they were jumping me, and that was to draw out my tag partner at the time to make the save, and then I betrayed him.
Yeah.
And it was like, sorry, man. It was like, it's all a ruse. I had to dump you. This was like the most asshole way to do it. So there we go.
Yeah.
And since then, it's been us. And like Purpose books us as a trio, which I really enjoy working with us as a three. Normally, Roth and Wavy get booked because they're really close together. So they do a lot of the tag stuff. And I'm kind of like the guy holding it down, the singles division sort of thing. Jade, bless her, is injured.
Yeah, shout out Jade. Obviously,
yeah,
wish her all the best in her recovery.
That's it. But I want like an evolution style photo where we all have gold. That's all I want.
That'd be great coming back. That'd be awesome. Yeah. Jade needs to come back and get some gold runaways, and then we'll sort that out, because that'd be epic. But again, like I've said it a couple of times, there are loads of great factions in British. You got like Northwest Strong and like BDK and the Uprising and things like that. Like there's plenty of potential. You know, even if it was on a company that books like Intergender Wrestling, like where you could have this awesome like faction based like war almost of all these groups, just to prove who's the top dogs.
That's that's in my head. Like I understand. Well, yeah, that's what I want, because I think it's cool. There's so many layers and levels of interaction you can have between these factions that I know everyone kind of wants to be, I'm the cool badass, and I'm like, Kazuchika Okada is the best wrestler on the planet. He's part of Chaos. Do you know what I mean? Like, he has friends he tags with.
Yeah.
He's still the guy, but he also has a crew behind him. Like, Kenny Omega is one of the best. he still has the flipping the elite and all of
Yeah.
that, right? So I think this idea of all of them in a crew, maybe it takes the spotlight off me. It's like it doesn't. Like
No.
I'm in the 8-7, but we've just spoken at length about like crazy singles pushes I've had. Like you can do it. You can do it all.
both. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's this cool thing of like, how fun would it be if it's like the 8-7 versus part of like Northwest Strong?
Yeah.
Like, how fun would it be if it's like the 0121, they're starting to grow and it's them versus us. Like, there's so many fun things you can do, right? And I will say this for ages. Like, I want to take it back to like mid-90s hip hop. I want it to be where we're at a show and there's just a fight that breaks out. You know what I mean? Someone's getting like dangled over a balcony. Like I want like 1995 Source Awards levels of crazy violence. I think that's all I want.
We need that. Someone's got to book all this. This has got to happen.
That's what I mean. I want it to go back to like East Coast, West Coast rap beef. That's what I want it to be. Like,
I love that. Yeah, that's what it's got to be. That's what it's got to be. Or just go really out there, like weird. I've spoken to, the only reason this is in my head is because I recorded another podcast with Ava yesterday, and we spoke about this sort of like almost having maybe like a Brit Rest like talent show kind of show, but like you have that with like the factions, almost like some sort of like dance off or something like.
That's it. You got served stuff, but it's just like people are like windmilling and shit. Yeah, I'd do it. I'd love it. I would love it. That would be great.
That would be epic.
Imagine it's just like a dance off and it just turns into like a tables match or something.
It would just be amazing, wouldn't it? Just be the craziest shit you ever seen. Brilliant. Brilliant. No, we need to see that. We need to see that. Well, obviously one of the reasons we got you on the podcast, Warren, is because obviously we're filming this in September, first day of September today. Yeah. This won't go out till October, like 2nd of October. Because this is going to be part of our sort of month-long Black History Month UK sort of project that we're working on and highlighting Black wrestlers in British wrestling. So we're delighted to have you on for that. And we're going to talk a bit about representation now because it's something we've spoken about with Roy Johnson and Big T, who we've had on the podcast in the past. And they've obviously been very, very vocal, you know, not just on the podcast, but on socials and in person as well about what more needs to be done for representation in British wrestling. From your standpoint, as someone who's been in the business now a few years, does it seem to you that there is, whether it's slow or quick, an improvement in representation in British wrestling at the moment?
Yes, from where I started and where we are now, yes, there's still some work to be done. I still see and hear instances of, I believe it's called unconscious bias. I believe it's what it's called. I've heard people who are in charge of sort of like booking decisions make comments about Black wrestlers and where they see them in terms of how they can use them. And it's sort of like, would you say that if they were blonde and white sort of thing? That still does happen. But I think the days of out and out discrimination are extinct. You can't get away with it now, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, the Progress stuff, I remember watching Progress, like, early on in sort of, like, my little Brit Rest journey. And one of the things that stood out to me was just like, man, nobody looks like me is on there. Like, occasionally you have Rampage, or occasionally you have Roy Johnson, but for the most part, I was like, it's just the same, like, white dudes with a fringe. Like, it's the same stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and then you look at it now, and it's like you have so many people of color in prominent positions like myself, John Gresham, Doris, Dan Maloney, Jody Fleisch, Leon Slater. And then like that's just a Progress, never mind in these other shows. You know, me and Michael Oku main evented a show in Essex, and it was like, wow, you have two flipping Nigerian guys in the main event for your British heavyweight title. Like, how cool is that, you know? So we're getting there.
Yeah, we
are getting there. There's a lot of work to be done before you can kind of wash away that unconscious bias. Because I challenged my friends. They were like, oh, I remember having a conversation with someone. It was about like Jonathan Gresham. And a lot of the criticisms they had about him, I was like, you've just described like, you know, flipping Kyle O'Reilly, essentially. So why is it all right for him, but not for John?
Yeah.
And it's this thing of like, oh, I didn't really think about it that way. I'm like, yeah, because you subconsciously or unconsciously hold us to a different standard than you do others. And you need to challenge that and either hold us to the same, you just have to hold us all to the same standard, whatever that may be.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing, isn't it, as well? Like you mentioned that unconscious bias, but again, you mentioned like, you know, 10 a dozen like great Black British wrestlers just then, but you very rarely see them either like a lot of them or individually on posters for shows or promo pictures for shows. And that's another issue, isn't it? That's another thing where you want that poster to have that representation because then people know who's going to be on the show and the different types of people that are going to be on the show.
250,000,000%. And I'm glad you said it because I was thinking it and I was like, I feel like I might have missed the opportunity to bring it up, but you are correct. So one thing I found, like for myself, I feel like as a champagne socialist where it's like, you've got it good, but you're still complaining. But like, I don't care. It's not about me. It's bigger than me. Like I'm normally on posters, but that's because like I have abs sort of thing. But more often than not, there will be other people of color on the card, but they're not on the poster. As you said, not on the poster. Like I saw a post going out that celebrated like the year, there was like an anniversary or something. And I looked at it and I was like, everyone on that poster is Caucasian. And not in a, we're being left out, but in a, the promotion itself books incredibly diverse cards and incredibly diverse talents and like the top few people in their promotion. I think it is like an even split between people of color and white. So I'm just like, your poster should be at least 50% of people of color. You know what I mean? So what's going on? Like people, I don't get it. As you say, like people, it's not just a disservice to the talent of color that they're not being celebrated alongside the others. It's a disservice to yourself because it's going to be fans. I'm going to look at it and go, it's, you know, like me on there. That ain't for me then. You know what I mean? But then I'm missing out on cool ass people of color doing cool ass wrestling stuff. I don't know they're there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's the thing is like even going to grassroots, like you see a very similar sort of thing in football, whereby it seems that like that lack of representation, say on like at the biggest level, means that it doesn't trickle down. You know, you don't have like say like young black kids growing up being like, oh, I see myself represented in wrestling, so that's what I want to do.
Exactly that. Like the football example is perfect because it gets brought up, and I know the game has tried to tackle it. They've still got a long way to go, but you very rarely hear, you know, these commentators and these pundits compliment the footballing brain and acumen of players of color. You very rarely hear them talk about how intelligent a footballer, like a Thierry Henry or a Neymar, who is like Afro-Brazilian or anything like that, is. Oh, they're really talented. They're physically this. They're physically that. I'm just there like, they're smart too, brother. They need a brain to do all of that. And if they're the best players in the world, what makes you think they can't then apply that as a manager and things like that? We see Patrick Vieira; he's having success. But aside from him, and I believe was it Chris Hughton was the other one that you can't really name too many. You know, you can't. And going back to the message that sends, like as a kid, you know, I'm walking through a supermarket, looking at the magazine aisle, and every single cover that talks about beauty and fitness and sort of presenting what the ideal version of a human is a white person. Every single one of them. And I'm sitting there like, so not even consciously, but subconsciously, I want my hair to be straight. I want to get colored contact lenses because that's what I need to look that way to be considered like up here, you know? And it does have an effect. When people say representation is important, it's not just so we can beat our chest and be like, hey, look, that guy looks like me. It's because if you don't see someone who looks like you or is like you in positions where they are successful, are being held up as a standard or something, you don't think it can't be done. You don't think it can be done. Sorry, apologies. You don't think it can be done. After with Kofi when he won the title, like I was in tears because it's sort of like people are like, why are you so? I'm just there like, you guys not realize like for the longest time we didn't think this was possible. We didn't think a black guy could have a match at WrestleMania and win the flipping WWE title because it hasn't happened before. And the amount of white people are like, oh my god, has it not? I'm like, that's the problem. Like,
people don't know that.
Yeah, like you're not even aware of it because fair enough, you don't see any reason why it shouldn't happen because you're of our generation. You're like a progressive, open-minded person with like very little bias. People at the top, these like 60s, 50-year-old geezers in charge making those decisions, the guys on the panel, have a lot of that to overcome, which is why it's taken so long. Yeah. So it's a tough one in terms of trying to get people aware of it. Understand it's not an attack, man. We're not saying you need to step on others. We just want to get up there too. That's all.
And something that really clicked with me there was the way you sort of discuss it, like in football with like the likes of Neymar. Because in my mind, like Neymar is the perfect one to compare with like Harry Kane. Because Harry Kane and Neymar are very different players, but the way they sort of dive and win tackles is, I think, very similar. And Kane always gets praised for it, and Neymar always gets shit for it.
Yeah, he gets slaughtered. He's called this. I'm just there, and I've watched highlights. Got BT Sports, so I watch a lot of football and stuff, and it's sort of like he gets kicked in those. He goes down for a reason. He gets battered otherwise. Like, and then you look at like Harry Kane. He does a lot of tunneling. You know, when people go up for a header and he'll crouch behind them, bump into him, and
I
like
hate
flip
that. I
over his
hate when
back.
he does that.
He does it every game. He does it so much. He dives. He does all that stuff, but no one. They say no one ever speaks about it. But then they say Neymar gets slaughtered for it. He's one of the most talented footballers to ever do it. One of the best to ever do it. He gets slaughtered for it. Harry Kane is a dirty footballer, but no one will say it.
Yeah.
You know, even like look at Sterling, man. Like look at how consistent he's been at the top level, and we forget he's only like what 25, 26.
Yeah, 26, 27, something like that. Yeah.
Very, very young in his career. He's still got a good like 4 or 5 years left at the top level at least. And like he's been scoring goals. He runs hard. He's got great work rate. All the assists, all the goals, all the da. Gets absolutely rinsed. Absolutely rinsed. But then you look at someone, I'm trying to find someone of comparative age. They don't spring to mind now. I'll just quickly say someone like a Mason Mount or a Foden or a Billy Gilmore, and people go to bat singing their praises, and they're nowhere near.
With Sterling, it's always about his personal life and what he's doing wrong in his personal life.
Do you know what I mean? People talk about what tattoos has he got, how many kids has he got. I'm just there like, at the age of like Phil Foden, they're like what 19, 20 years old. When he was that age, he was almost winning the league alongside Sturridge and Suarez at Liverpool. He was a machine as a teenager. All they talked about, was his personal life. What's he up to? Who's he hanging out with? Oh, he bought a house for his mum. I'm like, what?
Why is that important? Like, that's a good thing, right? Why?
Do you know what I mean? But he's being flash. He's buying a nice car. Like, they've all got nice cars. Why are you focusing on him? And it's this thing of like people don't realize that it's happening because they're like, yeah, that is kind of da-da-da, but they don't have the sense to kind of go. But they're not saying it about flipping, I don't know, Phil Jones buying it from my house. That's weird.
Yeah.
Like, why is there a problem when he does it, not the others? And you need to be wary of it. You need to be awake to these sort of things and call it out when you see it. And I think like people kind of see it as, it's an obligation or it's a responsibility or it's extra work. And I'm like, it's not work. It's not hard.
Yeah.
It's really not hard. And it's not always a matter of confrontation. A lot of people aren't aware they're doing it.
Yeah.
They're not. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't come from a place of malice. They just aren't aware.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like you don't even see that you're doing something wrong. Like, yeah.
Yeah. And if you're aware and if you bring it to people's attention, most people will go, I didn't think of it like that. Oh. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And so I know this is a very open question to sort of like, I guess sort of like close out talking about this, but like in your mind, in terms of getting more like, you know, young black kids into wrestling schools or getting more black wrestlers featured on posters and in prominent positions in companies, I know it's an open question, but like in your mind, how can British wrestling help that? How can British wrestling help continue that trend and that change and make sure it's happening still?
That is a very good question. It is an open one, and there are a number of things to address, and I want to kind of try and do it as quickly as I can because I can write an essay on it. So the first one is I'll throw it back to people of color. Now, a lot of us are from traditional, speaking about black people specifically, because that's the experience I'm most familiar with. A lot of us African and Afro-Caribbean. We're from very traditional, strict households where there's a massive emphasis on education and professionalism. The idea that you would say, I'm going to stop schooling at A-level so I can pursue wrestling will get you thrown out of the house in a lot of cases. I didn't start doing it until I was 25, and I'd already done my undergrad and postgraduate qualifications. I'd been called to the bar. I was working at a law firm, and I was like, yeah, cool, I want to do wrestling. I'm going to go get a nice little job in insurance so I got more time. So I think there's that element of, and to jump back to that, the reason a lot of households are like that is because our parents learned that the only way for you to succeed is to kind of fall into that realm of professionalism, because if you try and be anything else, they won't let you, because, you know what I'm saying, because of at that time, fairly open racism and bias and discrimination against us. We don't have that to worry about as much nowadays. You know, like I remember going to a hearing and seeing that the court clerk was a black woman with pink hair, and no one batted an eye. And I was like, that's progress.
Yeah,
that's real progression. Like even me with my hair, I would have had like dreads and twists a long time ago, but I always kept my hair short because I was working in the world of law and professionalism.
Yeah.
So that's something that we need to be brave enough to take that step and understand that we can pursue our dreams now. Like the world is a much more accepting and open place than it used to be, and we shouldn't be afraid anymore. So that's answer for what we can do.
Mm.
In terms of what others can do, I think maybe one way to get through to them is incentivize it a bit.
Mm.
So there's a podcast group called Restings. It's a load of by the man them for the man them,
Yeah.
a fair few black guys from like North London and stuff like that. Huge fans of wrestling, and they've openly said that they don't go to that many live shows because they don't feel comfortable there.
Mm.
And I think the more people you can touch, the more people will buy tickets, the healthier the scene will be, the more money you will make, the more money the wrestlers will make, and so on and so forth. The more people can enjoy it, the more likely wrestling is to survive. It's in the interests of everybody to be diverse.
Mm.
It really is. The schools, I've been to like a number of schools that have been open and welcoming. And wrestling knows nothing about like race, gender, or anything like that. If you can do a wrist lock and do some shoulder rolls and this, that, and the other, you'll be fine. Do you know what I mean? So the physical side of it is fine. The politics and the sort of the intangibles, as you will, that the landscape needs to be navigated carefully because there's a song called "Who's on the Panel," and they're not going to look like me. They're not going to look like Roth. They're not going to look like Big Wavy. They're gonna look exactly how you think they would look. And those are the people that kind of need to open their eyes and say, right, I want as many people as possible to come to my show and have a good time. How do I do that? You try and appeal to as many groups as you can without sacrificing the integrity of the show.
Yeah.
There are a number of wrestlers of color who are more than good enough to be on Progress, on any other show in the country. I've been to some shows and I'm like, yeah. you can't tell me you couldn't find a spot for Leon Slater here, brother. You know what I mean? You can't
Leon's incredible. Leon's phenomenal.
He sickens me. The lad sickens me. I remember meeting him when he was like this little 5'5" skinny kid, and every time I see him he gets big. I'm like, stop growing, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? But like there's people who are relatively new to it, like Remy Adetunji. Tremendous attitude, great shape, phenomenal dropkick on the lad. Needs to be getting out there and getting as many reps as possible. He moves better, is in better shape, and has a better mind for the business than people who are on those shows regularly. Will he get a spot? I don't know. Why? We kind of know the answer to that.
Yeah.
And I think people need to ask themselves why.
Yeah.
So that's the only way we're going to do it. It's sort of, we as people need to not be afraid to pursue our dreams. I know it's scary and I know it's easy for me to say that, having kind of got a good run of things. But you don't know unless you try. And then for the people who are making the decisions, who may say no, ask yourself why you're saying no.
Yeah.
Ask yourself why, and be really, really honest, because there's no shame in it. There's no shame in it. We've all had our own unconscious biases, our own prejudices, our own thoughts or things that we've not challenged and they're kind of taken root, but it's never too late to change, man. You're allowed to change. You're allowed to reconsider your position and go a different way with it. So do that.
Yeah.
You know?
No, for sure.
The scene will be better for it. The scene will always be better for it, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And something you mentioned there as well. You mentioned about like in terms of you shoot job and cutting your hair so it looks a different way for that. And this is something that Big T mentioned as well. And again, it's something that I'd like, especially in wrestling, not really considered until he mentioned it. But do you feel like, especially like you mentioned with your upbringing in terms of like having to work hard and having that strong work ethic, is it a thing where you feel like you have to work harder to prove yourself?
Yeah. And the reason I didn't hesitate while saying that is like, maybe not at the level I'm at now, because it can't be denied. But I remember being at like a promotion. I won't say that. I don't think it exists. No, it does exist. Sorry, but I remember being at a promotion and kind of like I think somebody asked like, "Oh, how come you're not in the main event, or why aren't you trying?" Because I'd been there for a little while and like I'd been getting better at wrestling and stuff. Like, why come you're not doing it? I answered honestly, it was like, because I'm not a 5'8" white guy with a dyed fringe.
Yeah,
plain and simple. I'm not. Every single one of your main event workers looks and wrestles exactly the same. It's boring. So I don't fit that mold, so it's not going to be me.
Yeah.
And I've always had this sort of mentality of like, if you're not going to give me the opportunity, I'm just going to go blow the roof off somewhere else. And I have. And I think a lot of it may sound incredibly arrogant if you don't know me, but if you do, you know, like it's the truth. If you know me, I've been the same since the day I started to today. It's a case of you can't cheat the grind, you can't whatever, work hard, and people will not be able to say no.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And if they do, fall on them because
Yeah.
it's their loss.
Yeah. And like you say, it's about starting that dialogue, isn't it? It's about starting that conversation about it and opening up about it, and just making people realize, say, some mistakes they may be making, or just why they're acting certain ways. And as long as you open that dialogue, things are always going to improve.
100%. Like you, no problem gets better by running from it. Not one. And if you're sitting there and you're busting your ass and you're going, you know what, I'm looking at my peers, I'm looking at people at this training school, I'm looking at this, and I'm seeing people who are getting opportunities that, if we're being 210% honest, aren't as good as me, aren't bringing what I bring to the table. They're not unique. They're not this. They're not that. In fact, no, scratch that. Forget about other people. Talk about you. Talk about what you bring to the table. What can you do that's different? How do you feel you make it better? And if you go to someone and you offer all of that and they still say no, you've tried. And you can go, all right, and you can go to the next person or the next person. The one issue a lot of wrestlers make is they stay in the same place.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Like, train at every other school, shake hands everywhere, go help out at shows. Doris, people, I'm not sure if people will remember this. There was a point where Doris was reffing like near enough every Brit Rest show. Because he was going out there shaking hands, making friends, like greeting people, and he wanted to help.
Yeah.
And there's a reason all those places have called him back, because they know he was this humble guy. He was putting out chairs. He was reffing the show. He was doing all of this, right? So of course we're gonna call him back because he's flipping sick.
Yeah.
But he also put in the legwork. Do you know what I mean? It's a case of there's a lot to overcome. There is a lot, but you need to give yourself every opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
And I feel like just continuing to kind of be honest, work hard, you'll get there. You will get there, because there's very few of us. We've all achieved success. Do you know what I mean? We're all champions in other places. We're all booked and busy and stuff like that. We're all doing well because the conversation has happened.
Yeah.
And it can't be denied now. So I think it's just a matter of like refreshing people's memory, because I know it's tempting to fall back into old patterns. I've seen it. There's I had a conversation with the people behind closed doors. There's a women's division at the moment that is very, very lacking in diversity. And I've had the conversation with those people and pointed that out and asked why. And something is going to be done about it now.
Yeah.
But again, as you say, if you don't have that conversation and call them out, who knows how long that would have just continued on for.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's something that in trying to book this month as well that we're doing, booked a couple of female wrestlers on it, but like looking through, who we could actually have on, like there's very few women of colour in British wrestling at the minute, which again is something that I never really realised in full until I went to book this month, and I was like, hang on, there's not a huge well to choose from here.
No, there isn't, and there really should be. I went so one of the things that I do alongside sort of my little admin job is I'm a extra for like adverts and films and stuff like that.
Right.
And I met on one of these shoots a black woman who's a stunt woman, and she is a huge fan of wrestling. But like, so I'm a wrestler. She lost her mind. She was like, "Where's your Instagram?" And I was like, so she injured her ankle, but she was gonna come train at the play fight school in East London, and she injured her ankle before she could, but she really wants to do it. And she was looking at it, she was like, "Are there any other like black women in wrestling? Because I don't see a lot of them." And I'm like,
there's not a lot. No.
Yeah. And it's this thing of would you you know what I said about you look at something and you don't see people that look like you and you kind of go, I guess that's not for me. If it was the other way around, would she have been so surprised to hear about the depth and of British wrestling and how far it's spread and how popular it is?
Yeah.
She probably would have been into it already because she's got brothers who are sporty. They would have taken her.
Yeah.
But they didn't see people that they didn't feel comfortable going because the crowds, the crowds are majority Caucasian. The cards are majority Caucasian. It doesn't feel or look like a space for you.
Yeah.
And it's it's a tough one because someone's got to be brave and take that first step. But I feel like it would almost feel like they don't want to use the word, but it feels like we're invading when we look and we see no one like us, and it's sort of like I feel like an outsider.
Yeah.
I feel like an outsider, and a lot of like wrestling is tough enough for women because of just some horrible attitudes that exist. never mind being a woman of color as well, because you got that stacked on.
Yeah,
and other
yeah.
stuff.
It's a real
Um,
struggle, and it shouldn't be.
that's
It
it.
shouldn't be a
No, it
struggle.
shouldn't be, man. It really shouldn't. And it's a case of like, if I ever catch anyone saying or doing it, I'll punch him in the neck,
Mm,
obviously. But like, it does happen out there,
mm.
and it shouldn't. It really shouldn't. You
No.
can't stop people from being numpties because there's always going to be some muppet who ruins it for everybody.
Yeah.
There's always some clown. But women and women of color getting into training, progressing and getting onto cards and progressing with their careers and stuff, it shouldn't be a rarity.
Yeah.
It really shouldn't. The amount of women of color that love wrestling will surprise
Mm,
people. It will genuinely surprise people. The amount of like black women and Asian women who love wrestling, it would shock them.
mm.
But they don't do it and they don't get involved because they don't feel like they can.
Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. No, well said. And I appreciate you being so open and honest about everything as well,
That's cool, man.
and having this conversation with me. Well, we're going to move on to a couple of like fun features to end on that we always do to end the podcast.
Sweet.
The first one is a relatively new one, and it's called Hot Takes. And it's essentially your like controversial opinion. So like the one I say as the example is like I think pasta is quite overrated, and people slam me for that.
That was that was the most benign thing. I was waiting for something horrific.
Oh, it can be. That's the thing, though. Like that's the thing. It can be this. Essentially, it's the thing that you'd post on Twitter as your hot take that people would like slaughter you for. That would be like, there is no way you actually believe that.
Okay. Okay, cool. All right. I don't know, man, because I'm not gonna lie, I don't think anyone really cares what I think. So I don't tend to have any hot takes because like I'm more than happy to keep my opinion to myself a lot of the time. Okay, cool. Let's go. Hot takes. Mm.
Yeah, go on. I mean, the other again, I don't know why they seem to all be food based, but like so. The other one I can give you as an example because it would have already gone out by the time this goes out is we had Rob Brazier on the show. And he said that his one was that he gets slaughtered for the fact that he can't stand cucumber. Like if someone's got cucumber around him, he freaks out. He's like, no, I don't like it. Like it's like cringy for him. Like he really hates cucumber. Really hates. So it doesn't have to be food based, but your sort of thing like that, where people think it's a bit weird that you think a certain thing.
I don't know because I tend to keep a lot of things to myself.
Right.
I can't stand sweet and sour sauce. I think sweet and sour sauce is terrible.
I agree with that. I think sweet and sour is overrated.
Okay, good. Thank you. It is. It sucks, man. It doesn't know what it wants to be. It's like pick a side and it won't. It's a coward's condiment. That's my hot take. Sweet and sour sauce is the condiment of a coward.
Love it.
It can't commit one way or the other. It's on the fence.
Yeah.
It's a coward's condiment, bro. I hate sweet
I
and sour
relate
sauce.
to that. I agree with that. Everyone always says like I know it's not proper sweet and sour, but whenever I ask anyone like things about like McDonald's and stuff, they always say they like the sweet and sour sauce, and I'm like, why? It's so great.
It doesn't taste nice. It doesn't taste nice. Why are you eating something that doesn't know what it is? Who wants food to be uncertain? There are a few things that you can't have uncertainty with. Planes, operations, food. You can't risk it. You can't you just can't have it. It needs to be one or t'other. It can't. I hate it. I hate sweet and sour sauce. I
love
can't
it.
stand it.
Love
I
that.
cannot stand it.
That is a brilliant take. That
I'm
is a
eating
brilliant
now.
take. Well, leading on from that perfectly, we're going to learn a bit more about you now in our closing feature because this is called Anatomy of a Pro Wrestler.
Okay.
So I'm just going to ask you some questions and you let me know what comes to mind.
Cool.
So sticking on the food theme, conveniently, first of all, yeah, the first one is my favorite pre-show meal.
Favorite pre-show meal for me?
Yeah.
Taco Bell.
No, pre-show.
I'm a monster. I don't think people realize this. So when I joke about not going to the gym and eating ridiculous stuff, it's not really a joke. It's true. Like you can ask anybody. I don't work out. I'm actually going to go today to do like rehab resistance stuff, but I hate the gym. I can't stand it. So I don't work out. And for food, I'm eating, what was I eating before Super Strong Style? It was a kebab and chips.
That makes sense post-match. How is...
No. I need the fuel. You have to understand. So the other thing, I have an insanely quick metabolism. I'm always hungry.
Right.
Always.
I feel
So,
that.
like,
I'm the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Except I'm not a wrestler.
There's a cupboard back there that's full of food. That's full of snacks. Because
Nice.
I'm always hungry. Like the only thing that I found as I've gotten older is my metabolism has slowed a smidge. But I'm constantly hungry.
Yeah.
So yeah, pre-show meal is gonna be like a Taco Bell or like a kebab and chips if I can find it.
Good. Well, I love those foods, so it's good to know there's still a future in-ring career for me there if I want it.
100%, man. You need it. You need the protein. You need the carbs. You need it.
Well, this is where it gets interesting now, because you said that's pre-show, but the next one is my favorite post-pinfall pig out.
Post pinfall pig out is McDonald's, and
Nice.
it's usually so. When we were at uni, we were like, it's not a McDonald's order unless it exceeds 10 quid. Otherwise, what's the point?
Yes, thank
And
you. Yes.
you know what I mean? If you're gonna go, you need to go.
You need the
hard.
Big Mac and the nuggets and the mozzarella sticks.
See, you understand.
Yeah.
You know ball exactly. So it is like like the big tasty with bacon, chicken, a couple of chicken mayos, the nugget share box, or the sweet chili dip because I like sweet chili dip, and like a large Fanta or a large Coke. Because
Yeah.
McDonald's Coke tastes different. I don't know what they do with it.
No,
but it
there's
tastes
something in it.
It's nice. Yeah.
It's
I think
sweet
it's
and
like
sour sauce
extra
in it.
syrup or something. Yeah. If that was, I don't know how I'd feel. But yeah, my post it's a McDonald's order of at least about 10 to 12 pounds. Otherwise,
Nice.
it's just no point in going. Yeah.
Nice. Love it. Respect it. And the final food-based one is just your favorite type of food in general.
Favorite type of food? You know what? It was Chinese for the longest time, but Turkish has usurped it now. I'm a big fan of like the Turkish Mediterranean style stuff, like the shish and that.
Yeah.
I love it. I love a good Turkish.
Yeah.
I love a good Turkish meal. Probably that.
I like that. I'm like I'm half Iranian, and I always say basically anything like Turkey onwards globally is elite food. Like
the best.
Anything Turkey eastwards towards Japan, that area, that whole part of the world.
They know how to cook, man. They know how to cook. I'm telling you.
It's good food. It's always good food.
Yeah, exactly.
Brilliant. But if you like Turkish, you should try Persian. I'd recommend you that because if you find a good Persian place,
there's a bit of an overlap of
you get like nice like kebabs and stuff with rice and things like that. It's all good stuff. It's great.
Excellent.
Would recommend. The next one is the song that gets me the most hyped.
Ooh, the song that gets me the most hyped. What do I normally listen to? I have like a gym playlist. Finn Balor's entrance, the whole is it Catch Your Breath?
Yeah. Nice.
That, oh my god, you can't. When that hits, oh my god. Because I got like because I have a gym playlist because when I go, it's very much I hate it. I'm gonna go, but to make up for it, I'm gonna be here for like an hour and a half.
Right.
So like that gets me through like those sessions where because I try to hit everything and then leave, so I don't have to come back.
So you don't have to do it for the rest of the week, yeah.
You literally, I'm there like right. I'm gonna do squats. I'm gonna do like at the time when I was healthy, I'm gonna try and do I do everything and then just get out and don't come back for a week. So like Finn Balor's tune got me through that. Gets me through those sessions.
Nice. And then the next one leading on from that is just your favorite band of all time. Doesn't have to be a band. It can be like a solo artist, but like favorite music act of all time.
It's a tough one because there's people whose later bodies of work kind of bring the average down. I'll probably say my top three would be Michael Jackson, Kanye West, and Linkin Park.
Nice. Linkin Park's a very different one out of those three. Like.
Yeah, it's a case of obviously a lot of music. The time you hear it is very important. Michael Jackson is like my first musical memories. The earliest thing I can remember of music as a child is Michael Jackson stuff. So I think that's why. Kanye West, because again, like coming into my teen years, he was blowing up and he did like College Dropout when I was like 12, 13, and like it was hooked on him from there. And then My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy is one of the best albums of all time. No one can tell me any different. And then Linkin Park, again, it's a similar thing of coming of age, like being a kid and trying to figure out who you are and stuff.
Yeah.
Don't know what it was, but the music resonated with me. But like, yeah, it just it hit a chord. Because it was like obviously it's like the new metal thing, which is like a mix of like rap and rock and stuff like that. And they did it so bloody well. Everyone tried to copy it, but they can't get the sound right.
No.
And I think it probably helped that like Mike Shinoda was a true hip hop head, which is why it was so good. But yeah, those three. I'm not sure I could pick one. I'm not sure.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I like that though. It's a good three. It's a solid three musically. Like it. Next one, the final music one is the best gig I've ever been to.
Best gig I've ever been to. You know what? People will hate me, but I can't remember because I was working as staff on this gig.
Right.
So I was working. I was out like an events staffing company. So I was working as like a bartender.
Right.
And I can't remember who the main acts were. What I do remember is Biffy Clyro.
Okay.
Were on stage.
Was it like a festival show?
It was at Milton Keynes Bowl.
Oh, okay.
So they were like the pre-show. I'm not sure how to describe it.
Let's
You
see
know,
if
you
we
got the
can
main
find
act,
it.
the
Yeah.
headliner. Yeah, I can't remember what year it was, man.
Let's have a look.
It might
Biffy
be in
Clyro,
2010.
Milton Keynes Bowl. Let's
Was
have
it
a
the
look.
Prodigy? I'm not sure if it was the Prodigy. It couldn't have been. Foo Fighters. Foo Fighters. That was it. Foo Fighters at MK Bowl.
Ah, okay.
Foo
Okay.
Fighters at MK Bowl. That was it. That was the best one because every act like did their music live and it was hype as fuck. Like
Yeah.
it was so good. Like the singer for Biffy Clyro's got a tremendous set of pipes. Like the music bangs. Like Foo Fighters again. I remember like Dave Grohl like down in a beer and being like, we wanted to make music that you could make in your garage.
Yeah.
You know, like we didn't want to rely too much on like synthesized sounds and this, that, and the other. We wanted you to be able to take music from a garage and put it on the stage and still be able to play it exactly the same. And like, yeah, all their songs banged. It was just good. It was tremendous.
Yeah,
It was
no,
tremendous
Foo's
stuff.
a great live. Foo's a great live.
Yeah. Yeah.
Next one is the movie that I chose, The Locker Room.
Ooh, movie that I show the locker room.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I've kind of fallen out of love with film recently.
That's fair enough. We can change it to TV if that's something that's more your style. We can change it to like TV series.
TV. I'm not sure if there's anything I would say you have to watch this. Nothing really springs to mind. I mean, some of my favorite films are things like The Godfather, Goodfellas, The Departed. I do like my like mobster cop films.
Nice.
Trying to think. I'll show the locker room. Lucky number 7. Is it Lucky number 7 or Lucky number 11? I can't remember now. It's Lucky number 7, but the E was a
yeah.
I really like that one because of the twist, which I won't say in case anyone's not
No
seen
spoilers.
the film.
No spoilers here. No.
Yeah. But it was a good film because it had a decent cast and it was like it was Josh Hartnett and Morgan Freeman. I can't remember the name of the other gentleman in it. I'll kick myself. But yeah, it was a good film with like a nice. It's a good film. You should watch it.
Nice. I'll check it out. The next one is my favorite way to relax.
Favorite way to relax is very much feet up and a little bit of video games.
Nice. What do you play?
So at the moment, because I moved in with my partner,
right,
and it's hilarious because I used to stream like fairly like on a weekly basis. I don't do it as much because life essentially. But I now stream from an audience of 2, which is her and the dog. So like at the moment, I'm playing Prey,
nice,
which is like a cool game. I had no idea what it was because I've got Game Pass
right
on Xbox, so it came with it, and like that's a fun game. It's anxiety inducing, but it's a fun game. But I normally like my single player stuff now. So like that, the Persona 5, which is everyone should play Persona 5. FF7 remake, like God of War is another really good one that people should play. It's just I really like my single player games.
Nice.
I like my stories. I've got her currently playing Mass Effect Trilogy.
Nice.
So she's just finished the first one this morning. So when she gets back with the dog, we're gonna get started on Mass Effect 2.
Nice.
Love it. Yeah, those are my games. Yeah.
Awesome. Next one is it's a bit of a throwback because it's my first job.
First job. What was my first job? What did I do? My first actual on paper HMRC job was at Sports Direct or Sports Soccer. I can't remember what it was called at the time.
Nice.
And I think I lasted about 2 months. And I was like, I'm out. I'm doing A levels. I can't be asked for this. I'm out. Bye. So that was my first job. My actual kind of real first job was a family friend had moved offices.
Right.
So it was essentially like helping him network his IT because I used to be really good with computers. I've forgotten all of it now, like all of it. But there was a weird period of time I was just really good with IT. Like, so I was able to set up like the network for the office and all the computers and all the equipment and stuff like that, and like help hook up the servers and all that kind of stuff.
Nice.
Because I had like a real big interest in it. Like during over like the summers and stuff, I'd really get into like just reading into that stuff. So,
yeah.
It's all gone now. It's all
always does, doesn't it? Always does.
Yeah, that's it. Because I just never used it again. I never used any of that knowledge. That was like back in like 2005, 2006. And it's sort of like I've not had to think about it for like 16 years, so I don't remember any of it. But
no,
yeah.
That's fair. I think the Sports Direct one is better though. I think like the retail jobs are the ones that harden you to what the world's really like, right?
I did that, and then I think after that, I went to uni. When I came back from uni, I worked in River Island as like, and
Nice.
doing the sales at River Island when you're there at 5:30 in the morning. It's like nothing gets to me anymore. Like nothing gets to me anymore.
Heart of stone now. Just all
Legit, honestly.
brilliant. The next one is we've sort of touched on sort of like your shoot job and stuff. So it might be this because it's if I wasn't a wrestler, I'd be.
No, I wasn't a wrestler. So there are two answers for that. I think I'll say the most absurd, ridiculous one because it's not just if I wasn't a wrestler. If I wasn't a wrestler and I had absolutely nobody in my life to disappoint, it would be being a porn star. That would be the one.
There we go. This is the title.
Outrageous.
You've just titled the video now on YouTube. Now Warren Banks reveals he wants to be a porn star.
Legit. If we were like, in the Marvel multiverse, there's a universe 8-7 Banks out there. He does it professionally. That would be the most absurd one. If I wasn't a wrestler though, I'm not sure. I think what would I do? I've always wanted to kind of create stuff.
Okay.
I've always wanted to be a bit of a performer in some way, shape, or form. Because like I can't explain to you like the warmth I get inside when like I'm able to like make somebody laugh or whatever, or feel something. Do you know what I mean? So I'll probably be maybe some sort of a like actor or doing plays or something like that.
Sure.
Like when I was a young guy, I used to like sing in the choir at church and all these other things. Like I was very much like I like to perform in some way, shape, or form, be on stage. So probably doing plays somewhere.
And to be honest though, that's the thing. Like it sounds weird, but like the porn star thing then isn't that wild because like apart from the graphic nudity, like apart from the graphic nudity, there's not too much different. Like you're still entertaining. Right. You put on a character, right?
Yeah, I said this to people. Porn is a movie. Porn is wrestling. Sorry, porn is wrestling because wrestling is simulated violence. It's a story involving two compelling characters where they go head to head with one another, and at the end, there's meant to be a big, satisfying outcome.
Yeah, head to head takes a little different meaning in porn, but it's very much a similar thing.
You have the establishment, you've got the shine. You know what I mean? There's a heat. There's a bit of a comeback. There's a back and forth.
It's all choreographed.
Thank you. It's all choreographed. We all have stage names. We all wear ridiculous outfits or not wear them, as the case may be, in made-up scenarios or feuds. And then at the end of it all, there's a huge payoff, and everyone goes home happy. There's no difference. Like no difference at all. It's the same thing.
Love it. This podcast is taking a very different turn, but I love it. I love it.
But no one expected this. I had this real serious discussion about like equality and diversity, and I'm just there like, listen, man.
Porn and wrestling are the same thing.
You should work together. They should join hands and like the same thing. It's the same shit.
Brilliant. I love it. The next one, very different now. We're going. I mean, I don't know how we come back from that. If I'm honest, I don't know how we continue from that. Might as well just cut it here. The next one is the next one's my favorite animal.
My favorite animal. That is very different.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a come down from what we were just talking about.
My favorite animal. You know what? I used to love eagles.
Nice.
And as I got older, I was like, they look kind of geeky. They got these weirdly disproportionate huge wings and stuff, and they just kind of look like nerds in the face. So maybe not eagles anymore. I'm a big fan of like big cats.
Nice.
Like lions and tigers and stuff like that. I do like a puma.
Nice.
Or a panther. I'm not sure what the correct term is, but the big cats.
I thought they were two separate things, pumas and panthers.
A jaguar, a puma.
I
don't know.
I thought they were two separate things.
Overlap.
But I couldn't tell you. Like the panthers are the black ones, aren't they? Pumas are. I thought pumas look more like cheetahs.
I think you're right.
But I don't know now.
No, but I'm fairly certain because I remember somebody saying like, "Why is it called Black Panther?" And I was like, "Why wouldn't it be?" Then I looked up and I was like, "Oh, all panthers are black, but they have like under a certain light, they have the weird like markings on them, similar to like tigers and stuff like that." But yeah, I would probably go for like a panther. If I could.
Nice. One of the big cats, yeah.
Yeah, just strutting along and eating like gazelles and stuff.
Nice, love it.
Sunbathing, yeah.
Brilliant. The next one gets a little bit deep because it's my greatest fear.
My greatest fear. It's deep. It is deep, and there are a few things that I'm afraid of that haven't already happened to me and my family.
Mm.
So it's if we're talking real kind of.
It can be as deep as you're willing to share. It don't have to be like anything you're not
Oh
willing to
no, no, no! It's not about sharing. It's just a weird thing of like I don't fear much. I
share.
need to
Mm.
think about what it is. I know that sounds like a real cheesy thing to
No,
say,
that's
but
fine. No, no, no. I get that. I
I'm
get
not. Yeah,
that.
I don't have a lot of fear in me. I try not to live like that.
Mm.
Deepest fear. I don't know, because one of my biggest fears was like, oh, what if I'm not able to wrestle anymore? But at the
Mm.
same time, I feel like I'm kind of happy with the work I've done. So if I can't, I wouldn't be
Mm.
too upset. Um, I think my biggest fear would be like losing my partner.
Sure.
I think that would be like the biggest thing is like losing my partner or losing an immediate member of my family, which I'm
Mm.
sure everyone has that fear,
Yeah.
like a fear of loss. Um, yeah, those would be my biggest fears is losing someone,
Sure.
which is
No.
why like I try and live a life of just be thankful for stuff. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
No,
Just
I
be
get that.
thankful
I
for
get
things.
that. That's
Yeah.
understandable. That's understandable. We've got a couple of wrestling related ones now. The next one is it's all like a two-parter because it's my favorite wrestling match ever, and I'm going to ask you for one you've been in and one you've watched.
Oh, that's cool. One that I've been in and one that I've watched. Favorite wrestling match ever. Um, I'm a huge fan of what we thought at the time was his last match, which was Katsuyori Shibata versus Kazuchika Okada.
Mm.
Because the storytelling in it, the physical storytelling in it was tremendous.
Yeah.
It was a clear thing of Shibata is the wrestler, right? And Okada makes his entrance and he just walks straight past him and goes and poses on the buckle and stuff. And Shibata just doesn't move and everything. And the match starts and Okada's like, trying to hit Shibata and hitting him with strikes. And then Shibata's like, fucking Okada just drops. And I'm like, oh yeah, you can't outstrike him.
Yeah.
He's Shibata. So Okada now tries to like tech him and like put him in holes and stuff, and Shibata just keeps getting out of it and beating him up some more. And it's sort of like Okada came in as the Rainmaker with his entrance and the money falling down in this grand jacket, and he's just getting battered by this
Yeah.
dude. He's
He's
not
getting
taken
humbled
seriously.
seriously. Yeah.
Exactly. And then like as the match goes on, Shibata starts to tire and he's like getting a little bit less aggressive, and Okada's getting these openings and he's getting these shots in. And there's a bit where Okada hits him with the Rainmaker
Mm.
and Shibata just doesn't go down and slaps him like half to death. It's the greatest thing. And then the finish of the match is my favorite because they're going back and forth,
Mm.
smashing the crap out of each other. And Okada spins him out for the Rainmaker. And as he cocks back, Shibata like throws his arm back like he's going to try and hit him to stop him. Then Okada just takes his head off. And it's like, you were this close. He was this close. Even at the end,
Yeah.
like, all it was if he was a half second quicker, he would have stopped Okada and he probably would have won.
Yeah.
Especially when he'd gotten to the point where he'd headbutted him and he has the blood dripping down.
Mm.
Like, that's how far they went. And I'm like, that's epic. Like, to be able to have somebody win definitively, yet still show they were that close to losing
Yeah.
is so cool. It's
Yeah.
such a good example of storytelling. I think it's amazing.
Mm.
It is my favorite match of all time. I love
Yeah.
it.
Great match.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
about when you've been in?
When I've been in. I don't know. I feel self-indulgent talking about it. I don't
You've
know
had a
if
lot,
I'm
to
like,
be fair. If I can big you up for a second, you've had a lot of great ones.
oh,
Like,
thanks, man. Thank you.
but it doesn't necessarily have to be like the best technical one. Just sort of
I
like
was
the one
about to
that,
say that
yeah,
I enjoyed the most.
yeah, just the one that sort of like you go back to as like that maybe means the most to you, or the one where you had the most fun, even like.
I would say either me v Ridgeway
Mm.
in that final Super Strong Style, or me versus Oku at RCWA.
Yeah.
Me v Ridgeway because like I wish I wasn't hurt so I could have enjoyed it more.
Mm.
But it was a style of match that I've been like begging to do, which is sort of like the longer, more methodical Japanese style.
Mm.
And like he helped put it together. He helped like tell me like things that I could do to kind of do that. And like yeah, there's points in the match where like I'm not sure he's really good at like communicating without you seeing, but there's points where he's like telling me what to do to kind of help add to it, and I'm like,
Mm.
oh, what a guy! Thanks, man. Thank you. Like made my job so easy. Ridgeway is probably killing his aura, but
Mm.
he's like the most giving, generous, lovely man to work with.
Yeah. But
Genuinely.
kayfabe, he's awful. Kayfabe, he's just a
Kayfabe,
punisher.
he kicked me to death, and I'm gonna get him back for it. But kayfabe aside, lovely bloke. Can't
Yeah.
thank him enough. And then Oku was very much like, so the ring broke on that show. it's a family show, and the ring breaks, and they have to like rebuild this ring, and it's like freaking 10 o'clock at night, and we're just stood there like, what the and I'm losing my mind. I'm in pain because of my shoulder. I'm tired. I'm angry. I'm running around backstage screaming at people and everything, and he's just there like real calm, and I'm losing my mind, and he goes like, "Yo, you know that no one's left, right?" What? And he's like, yeah, like, look. And it was true. Everyone was still in their seats. Like, they want to see this match. So.
Oh, that was huge. Like, that match. I remember, like, talking to people, and, like, again, we talked about the diversity, but, like, that seemed like never happened before. These are the two, like, top black wrestlers in the country at the moment going head to head. But, like, when people told me it never happened before, I was like, how has this never happened before?
We were saying it. And the funny thing is, like, I think we were in, like, a Rumble or something weird like that in, like, I think 2016, 2017. I remember he posted a picture of it, and I was like, oh, yeah, we were in, like, a weird battle royale somewhere. But we'd never, it's this weird thing, like, me and Doris have never had a singles match. We've never, yet we've been in plenty of, like, multi-man and on the same shows, but we've never faced each other. So it's this weird thing of how has this never happened.
Yeah.
But so it's like people want to see this match, and we came out and we're, they're going to be tired and not into it. They were loud, man. So I think like even they kind of knew that it was like an important thing.
Yeah.
And like the match itself, we didn't reinvent the wheel or anything. It was just good old fashioned wrestling, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it.
Love it, love it. The next one I'm going to say in person for, not that you've seen on TV, because I think it's got to be an in person thing. It's my the loudest pop I've ever heard.
Oh, loudest pop I've ever heard. Oh man, I've heard some doozies.
I can imagine there's a fair few, yeah.
I think there was it was at Shouting Graps, and it was when Tyler Bate made an appearance.
Right.
And I think it was loud, then it got louder. So the funny thing about Shouting Graps is there would be like inflatable Kid Lycos versus whatever.
Yeah.
Or, you know, Chris Brooks in a pigeon mask or something. like so his music hit and everyone was like, yay, Tyler Bate. And then he came out and they're like, oh my god, it's Tyler Bate. Like, so there was an initial pop of like, haha, we're playing along. Then they saw him and they lost their
mind. Like, holy shit, it's actually Tyler Bate.
And the best thing about it was with the way the room was, the ring was here and you'd have to like walk around to get to it. So people on that side of the room saw him first. So the further along he got, the more people saw him, the louder it got.
Yeah,
so I'd probably say like that was probably the loudest one I've heard. It was crazy.
That's fair. That's fair. The one that I'd exactly relate that to my choice, which would be, I always tell people it's I don't know if you've seen it. It's Pac making his entrance against Cara Noir at Riptide.
Oh, that was cool. Yeah.
And like, because that's built very similarly, because there's like that curtain where the entrance is, so that this side sees it first.
Yeah.
And because it was a surprise, people were like, "Oh, there's no way it's going to be Pac," and his music, and everyone was like, "There's still no way." And like, he comes up, and this side sees it first, and they go mental, and then everyone else realizes.
Those are the best, where it's just the sort of like it's like a wave.
The slow build,
Yeah.
That is great.
That's my biggest one I've heard for sure.
Nice. The final wrestling one is just my favorite venue to wrestle in.
The Dome.
Tufnell Park.
Yes. Yeah. The Dome. Like, you're all nice and close. Can hear everything. Like, I love the Dome. That and like the Frog and Bucket in Manchester.
Yeah, nice. Those like intimate ones.
Yeah, man. Like when I think Brit Rest, I think those sorts of venues and those sorts of shows where people are packed tight. There's a lot of energy in the room, and we're all here to have a flipping kick-ass time. That's what I think. And those two places, I feel, are perfect examples of it.
Yeah, awesome. Only a couple left. The next one's my favorite place in the world.
Favorite place in the world is in the world. My favorite place in the world is going to be. So this is one of the few times I truly felt genuine bliss. So I'm from Nigeria, and my dad's side of the family, they're from like a village. When I say village, I'm talking like roads aren't paved sort of thing. Village, right?
Yeah.
So he's been building a house there, and we went to visit, and the roof hadn't been finished yet. So you're on like the second floor, but there's no roof, there's no walls, so it's just a floor, and you can see everything, and you can see like for miles in every direction. You can see the horizon, and it's because there's no light pollution, because there's no electricity, like unless you got a generator or something. There's no traffic, there's no fucking planes, there's nothing. It's just you and nature and no one else. And I was like, this is the most peaceful place I've ever been to. And that was over a decade ago, and I can still remember it like it was yesterday. I can see it so clearly in my mind.
Yeah,
Like
that's crazy.
that's my favorite place in the world. If I could go there right now, I would.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, the next one, let's say somewhere you haven't been. The final one is my dream holiday destination.
Ooh, cliche, but I really, really want to go to Tokyo.
Nice.
Everyone's
Basically every wrestler we've had on here says Japan, unless they've already been to Japan, because like that is the dream, right?
100%. Yeah.
Nice. Love it. Love it. Brilliant. Well, Warren Banks, thank you so much for coming on the Grapple Theory podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Thank you. No, it's been a great time, man. Thanks for having me.
Good. I'm glad. I'm really glad. And yeah, it's been lovely to hear you open up about things like representation and how we can change in British wrestling, but also to learn a bit more about yourself as well. It's been really fun.
I'm really looking forward to it. I know you post a snippet, so I'm really looking forward to you just posting the porn one.
Oh, that's going on. As soon as you said that, I was like, that's a clip right there.
Just no context whatsoever. Like, wrestling is porn. Controversial take.
That's the hot take. Yeah, that's the hot take.
Yeah, that's it, right? Yeah.
Brilliant. I love it. Well, we always end each show by giving our guest one more final piece of promo time. So hopefully you'll be back in the ring sooner rather than later. When that happens, whether it's for the end of this year or going into 2023, why is Warren Banks always going to steal the show if someone comes to check him out?
Warren Banks will always steal the show because there's nobody who looks like me, moves like me, sounds like me, and does what I do whilst looking as good as I do when doing it.
Perfect.
So bring your friends, bring your pals, bring your enemies, bring whoever. Just know that when they see me, it's gonna be good.
Love it. Brilliant. Perfect way to end.